What if the United States had 55 states instead of 50? What if Utah became its own religious kingdom? What if Texas was split into 5 states and one was ruled by ranchers? Or if Illinois broke off and called itself Forgottonia? These aren't just wild hypotheticals. These were real proposals with real people and real ambitions. They're moments when America's map was still being drawn, when anyone with enough grit could try to change it. So what happened to these almost states? Why did they vanish before they were born? In this episode of Time Unfolded, we're diving into 5 lost states of America, proposals that came shockingly close to reality. By the end, you'll see just how easily the stars on the US flag could have been different. Northern California, rugged, forested, fiercely independent. This is a land where the wild pines stretch for miles, and the people have always valued their freedom and self-reliance. In 1941, locals here and in Southern Oregon decided they were done being ignored by distant state capitals, tired of feeling like their voices didn't matter. Their solution? Secede and form a new state, Jefferson. A bold idea, born from frustration and hope for a better future. Led by Port Orford's mayor, Gilbert Gable, they rallied counties from both states, designed a double-cross seal, and even elected a governor to represent their cause. Eureka, California was to be their capital, a symbol of their new beginning. This wasn't a joke. It was a real movement, fueled by frustration over terrible roads, vanishing tax dollars, and a sense of being left behind. To get attention, they staged a peaceful rebellion. Armed men stopped traffic on US Route 99, handing out declarations of independence to surprised travelers. We'll secede every Thursday until further notice, they declared, making their intentions clear to everyone. The media loved it. Newsreels rolled and the story of Jefferson went national, capturing the imagination of the country. Pulitzer-winning articles painted them as modern-day patriots, fighting for their rights and a fair share of representation. Suddenly, state officials promised to review their grievances, and for a moment, real change seemed possible. It looked like Jefferson might actually force change, or even get its own star on the flag, a dream that felt within reach. But then, history intervened. Pearl Harbor was attacked, and everything changed overnight. Overnight, the nation's focus shifted to war, and the Jefferson cause was suddenly forgotten. The Jefferson movement was suspended, its leaders enlisting for the war effort, putting their dreams on hold for a greater cause. The dream faded, never regaining momentum as the years passed and priorities shifted. Today, the name and spirit of Jefferson linger, a reminder of a state that almost was, and the enduring desire for local voices to be heard. After the Revolution, America's western frontier was chaos, a land of uncertainty and shifting allegiances. In 1784, settlers in what's now eastern Tennessee found themselves abandoned. North Carolina had ceded their land to the federal government, leaving them isolated and vulnerable. With no protection or legal system to rely on, these pioneers took matters into their own hands, determined to survive. 4 counties declared independence, drafted a constitution, and elected John Sevier as governor, forging a new path. They called their new state Franklin, hoping to win Benjamin Franklin's support and gain national recognition. Franklin operated as a de facto republic. Treaties, taxes, even its own currency. Their goal? Statehood and legitimacy. They petitioned Congress to become the 14th state, seeking a place in the new nation. The vote fell just 2 states short, dashing their hopes for official statehood. Meanwhile, North Carolina changed its mind, reclaiming the territory and branding Franklin an illegal insurrection, deepening the crisis. For years, 2 rival governments clashed. 2 courts, 2 militias, and divided loyalties among the people. The conflict peaked in a brief skirmish, but support for Franklin faded as unity proved elusive. By 1789, the experiment ended. Sevier was pardoned, and the land rejoined North Carolina, closing a turbulent chapter. Soon after, it became the Southwest Territory, and eventually Tennessee, with Sevier as its first governor, fulfilling part of the dream. Franklin failed, but its bold experiment paved the way for Tennessee's creation and left a legacy of frontier determination. In 1849, Mormon leaders in the Salt Lake Valley proposed something audacious, an entirely new state called the State of Deseret. Its borders would have stretched from the Rockies to the Sierra Nevada, from Oregon all the way down to Mexico, encompassing all of Utah, Nevada, and parts of 5 other future states. Deseret was meant to be a religious commonwealth, a self-sufficient haven for the Latter-day Saints, where they could practice their faith freely and build a new society. For 2 years, Deseret functioned as an independent government, complete with its own constitution, legislature, courts, and even its own currency. But Congress was wary of a massive theocratic state rising in the West. The debate over slavery made any new state controversial, fueling heated arguments in Washington. In 1850, Congress rejected Deseret, creating the much smaller Utah Territory instead, limiting Mormon ambitions. California took the Pacific coast. Other territories were carved from Deseret's dream, dividing the land among new states. Still, the idea of Deseret lingered in the hearts and minds of its people. Utah's legislature kept passing laws under the name for years, keeping the vision alive. Today, the beehive symbol, the Deseret News, and the region's culture all echo that lost state and its enduring legacy. Deseret never made the map, but it shaped Utah's identity and left a lasting mark on the American West. The 1930s Dust Bowl devastated the southern plains. In the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, desperation led to a radical idea, a new state, Texlahoma. The plan? Unite counties from 5 states, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Kansas, and Colorado, into one region focused on survival. Locals argued a new state could better manage relief, water, and agriculture. The Texlahoma Statehood Convention gained traction in 1935, drafting petitions and rallying support, but convincing 5 states to give up land was nearly impossible. The movement was more a cry for help than a real political threat. Then the New Deal arrived: federal aid, soil conservation, and jobs. As conditions improved, the urgency faded. Texlahoma quietly disappeared, a forgotten dream born of crisis. By the 1970s, Western Illinois felt abandoned. No highways, no rail, no state support. So locals staged a satirical protest. They declared independence as the State of Forgottonia. They named a governor, designed a flag, and picked a capital, Fandon, a nearly abandoned town. The movement was a joke, but the neglect was real. Forgottonia's leaders used humor and media savvy to spotlight their plight. National outlets picked up the story, and the satire embarrassed state politicians. Eventually, the region got its long-awaited highway. Forgotonia never intended to be a real state, but it proved that creative protest could get results. Today, the name lives on as a symbol of local pride, and a reminder that even jokes can redraw the map. What do Jefferson, Franklin, Deseret, Texlahoma, and Forgottonia have in common? None made the map, but each reveals something vital about America. They're not just trivia. They're stories of identity, power, and the urge for local control. These movements sprang from the need to be seen and heard. They remind us that borders are negotiable and history is never as settled as it seems. The U.S. flag could easily have had 51, 55, or more stars. If you love hidden history, subscribe for more untold stories. And if you watched this far, drop your own fictional U.S. state in the comments. The best ones. We'll feature them in our next episode.